This podcast is sponsored by MD Serono and AbbVie.
Hi, I'm Victoria, and this is Patient in You podcast. And I'm super excited today, super excited. I'm smiling from the inside, but obviously on the outside, because I get to interview a very special person. And so I'm going to share how I know this young lady. And I'm smiling because how I know her is because she's my line sister. And I love my line sisters. We have the best bond. We've had the best experiences, and I'm so grateful for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, especially Alpha Chapter. Shout out to Alpha Chapter. But the relationships between line sisters are just so special because it's not your chosen family, but it is your chosen family, and because you don't get to choose who's beside you. And when you cross, you're like, you know that this whole journey is ahead of you, but you don't know what's ahead of you. And so we've been in this thing since 2007. So we've grown up together, and it's been a beautiful journey to watch Ashley Blaine Featherson-Jenkins grow as a woman, as an actress, as an overall entertainer, as a wife, and as a mom, and all of the things. So I'm introducing Ashley Blaine Featherson. So let's say hello, Ashley.
Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so proud of you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Obviously, I love the podcast space.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, let's do it. We've known each other a long time, so I'm excited to have a good conversation.
As mentioned, Ashley and I are line sisters. So I know who she is. But Ashley, tell us who you are at your core. Give us a little bit about you.
Oh my gosh. Who am I at my core? At my core, I'm a dreamer. I'm not only a dreamer, I'm a dream actualizer. I am someone who really values community and friendship and just relationships, and particularly sisterhood. I am an artist, a wife, a mom, a daughter, and I have a zest for life. I just love being here. I'm really grateful for every day I get.
I love that. I love that. Yesterday, I did an interview and I said, thanks for coming to the pod. And I was like, shout out to my line sister. She says pod on her podcast. Welcome to the pod.
It's a pod. Who has the time to say podcast? Ridiculous.
So today I invited Ashley to talk about fertility and infertility. Ashley is very public and open about sharing her IVF journey. And I really wanted to, so with Patient in You podcast, I have MS. Most people know that. If you're here, you likely know that I have MS. And the work that I do is not just about MS. It's about patienthood and advocating for yourself as patients. And what I wanted to do with the podcast is I really wanted to talk to people who have had different journeys with their health, whether it was a diagnosis of a chronic illness, of a terminal illness, whether it's something that an invisible illness or whatever, as long as it's related to health. I wanted to talk to different people and hear their story and hear their experiences and really try to peel back the curtain on those experiences. And so, Ashley, I wanted to talk to you about your journey. So, high level, how would you describe your journey to motherhood at a high level? And then we'll get down to it.
At a high level, my journey to motherhood was convoluted.
Okay.
That's the word I would use. It was not at all a straight path. It was the opposite of a straight path.
Was it how you envisioned it?
No, not at all. But I think less than how I think less than was it how I envisioned it. It wasn't what I hoped for, which I think is like it's a nuance between the two, and they're very different. But I just I like deeply hoped that I wouldn't have to go through all the hoops that I went through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so did you receive and so I know your experience, but I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
was happening at the doctor's office, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
were you diagnosed with something, or is it just this umbrella of you were having fertility issues? Could you elaborate?
Yeah, it was, of course. It was, I think the thing about me, which I don't know if I talk enough about this, but I'm a planner. You know this about me, but I'm a planner. So for many years, even like before I got married, all these things, I was preparing myself to have hopefully a much smoother experience than I had trying to conceive. So
Right.
like I had like planned out when I was going to go off birth control, made sure that I had like fibroids taken out. I have something called a hyperprolactinoma,
Mm.
which is I have a benign brain tumor, but the brain tumor is hitting on it pushes up against my pituitary gland in my brain. And so it tricks my body into thinking that I have to lactate and I have an overproduction of prolactin, which at the time that I found out, which was probably now maybe 10 years ago,
Yeah, I
it
remember
was
you
more so
saying the
just
lactate part. Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
it was really at the time when I found out, it was shocking. But I went on to find out after it took forever, so many MRIs, so many blood tests, whatever, to figure out what it was. I went on to find out that sometimes if you have a very high prolactin levels, it can
Mhm.
affect your fertility because your
Okay.
body is thinking, we're already lactating. We already have a baby. Well, what do we need to get pregnant for? Even though I had never
Mm.
been pregnant, that was not the case in my body. So that was also something that leading up to trying to have a baby, was like tackling and had been on medication for years to, I have an endocrinologist, trying to make sure that my hormones and particularly my prolactin was at a good level. I got diagnosed with PCOS, which PCOS was interesting. There's a lot of symptoms for PCOS, but
Yeah.
I don't have like the more typical ones. The way that PCOS directly affects me is that my body does not process insulin properly,
Okay.
basically. So what happens is that my body like holds on to the insulin, it holds on to sugars and holds on to fat. It can also affect you. For me, PCOS, I have a high egg quality or high egg count rather.
Okay.
So that's like kind of like a pro for some people with
Yeah.
PCOS. So I found that out, but also finding out about my body holding on to insulin, I had to figure out how to get my A1C down because my A1C, I was pre-diabetic and like a notch away from being diabetic,
Right.
which didn't make sense with me having a healthy lifestyle and a healthy diet and all.
Right.
So again, I tried to figure out all of these things before actually being like, okay, let's do it.
So the brain tumor, how did you
Hmm.
discover that? Like, what happened
Oh,
to
okay.
discover that?
Oh, such a funny story. It's not funny. It's ridiculous. So again, this was probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
I was in my little studio apartment, which you remember in North
Mhm.
Hollywood. And I remember I was wearing like a jacket and I had like just gotten home from somewhere and I took off the jacket and I'll never forget. I was wearing like a white, like a V-neck t-shirt because
Mhm.
I was like changing for the night. I was like changing off from my clothes that I had on for the day. And I had like a mirror. I lived in a tiny studio, but there was like a mirror in front of my vanity. And I was taking off my clothes and my shirt I was leaking. My breasts were leaking.
What?
Like I had like huge circle, like
I don't
my
think I
shirt
heard
was
this
wet.
story.
And I looked me not, it's so crazy. Like I did not know. I know so much more about the female body
Mhm.
now, having gone through everything I went through with fertility. Like you think you know, but you actually don't know.
You don't
So
know.
I see this and I'm like, oh my God, does this mean I'm pregnant? Which that's not, and I was like, how could that be? Is it immaculate conception? Like I'm like freaking out.
Okay,
And
Mary.
so I'm like, this is insane. I'm like, what do I do? Do I stuff like tissue, toilet paper? I didn't know what to do. Now all
Yeah.
I do is walk around with breast pads on all day long. But
Full
at the
circle.
time, being 27 years old, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And so something else, which I don't know if you know this about me, but I love going to the doctor. Which is why this is the perfect podcast for me because I am like, I get like a crook in my neck. I'm like, I gotta go to the doctor and make sure I'm okay. Like, I do not play. I do not miss my physicals. I like
So
go
I
to the
know you
doctor.
don't
So of course
play
I make an
about going to the
appointment.
doctor, but liking going to the
And I'm
doctor
like,
is
what's,
crazy.
you said what?
I know you don't play about
Oh,
going,
I
but
love
liking
it
it.
because guess what? I like knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on. I don't want to come to the party late. And I think that particularly this is like a whole nother like rabbit hole we can go down.
Yeah.
But I want Black folks especially to like reclaim our power and our ownership over what's going on with our bodies and demand
Mhm.
answers, demand tests, demand to be seen,
Mhm.
demand the same standard of care that other people get. Like that is so important because historically we haven't gotten that. So
Mhm.
I just want that for all of us. So I went to the doctor and girl, it was a year before anybody could figure anything out.
I
Literally a
can
year. They're
imagine.
ordering blood tests. I'm doing multiple MRIs and I'm claustrophobic. So when you have to get a brain MRI, it's like there's
Yeah.
a you go into the little thing, but then they have to put a cage
Mhm.
over your head. So now the MRI machine is really like this. The panic attacks I've had, like it just was crazy.
Yeah.
Finally, the doctor's like, "Oh, we see something. You have a hyperprolactinoma." So that's when they explained that the benign tumor. And then they had to make sure the tumor was benign, which it is. And so it really is just like a random thing that happened to me.
Yeah. So the
That's how
MRI
I
was
found out.
able to spot it for you.
But it took a year. Yeah.
I can imagine. So a few things you mentioned that are very key to why we want to do this podcast. You basically talked about advocacy, patient advocacy, advocating
Yes.
for yourself and demanding certain things and having a standard. But what I'm learning is that I think in the Black community, our standards are pretty low on care because it's what was happening. So you're like,
Hmm.
if I've never seen quality care, I don't know what to demand. And what I'm learning about patients in the patient community is such a huge reflection of like who you are at your core. And when you are intimidated by authority, that shows up in that doctor's office. When you don't know the terminology, the health, you don't have a high health literacy. You are sometimes afraid to speak up because you don't want to sound silly, and so that's insecurity. It's all of
Hmm.
these, characteristics that sometimes live in us that shows itself, and sometimes at a disservice when we become patients. And so when I hear you talking about, first of all, you sound like the doctor with your terminology. You know your stuff, okay?
At this point,
You're like,
give me an MD, okay? Because no, respect to doctors, obviously, is a lot
right,
of schooling. But
obviously.
I'm just saying, like, you have to become well versed in these things. You have to do your own research
Yeah.
because, it's these doctors are supposed to help us, and so many of them do. But ultimately, it's my life.
Yeah.
No one needs to be more informed about my life than me,
Mhm.
period.
Yeah.
So, a doctor tells me something, I go home and do my own research. I reach out to community, whatever it is, but it matters. It's always going to matter the most to you. So,
Yeah.
and it
I
should.
agree. And that aligns with like owning your health. Like you mentioned, these doctors are here to help us and support us, but ultimately,
Mhm.
who whose life is this? If this doctor, let's say Dr. A, does not care about you, maybe they don't like Black
Mhm.
people, who knows? Maybe they don't care about women. Like, I'm not putting my whole health in anybody's hands. I need to be educated on what's going on. I
Mhm.
need to know what's going on because
Mhm.
who gonna save me? Who gonna save you but you? So I love that
Yeah.
you're already on that, and you sound like you already been on it. And so you obviously wanted to be a
Mhm.
mom, and this era came to your life. It came to
Mhm.
you, and you're like, okay, now's the time.
Mhm.
And so you're trying to conceive,
Mhm.
and what happens next?
So at this point, I feel like I'm good. Like I got the fibroids out of control, out of there. I've been off birth control. I'm healthy. I feel good. I'm married. Like I'm just like, okay, cool. So my OBGYN, who I love,
Check, check, check. You're like, check, check, check. Like, I'm doing the things.
Yes.
I'm
Check,
planning.
check, check. Oh, something else. Okay. Daryl and I also, right after we got married, we decided to do genetic testing. We wanted to make sure that he and I individually didn't have anything that could make it difficult for us to have a child.
What made you get this? Like, I've never heard of a couple getting married and then like, let's just do genetic testing, DNA. Like,
You know why?
where do you get this from?
I did my research. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I researched. I didn't even know. I was like, what are the things that could potentially make it difficult to have a child? That was one of the things.
Wow.
And so I went to my OBGYN at the time. And literally, I was maybe a month after we got married, we went and did that. So that was good
Yeah.
because that took out the guessing work of like, oh my gosh, what if we each have some chromosomal thing that like could, conflict with each other. We don't have that. So we're good to go.
Mhm.
And so my OBGYN was like, all right, like I think you guys should start trying. And I also knew that I had enough awareness to know that I could not, there was a possibility that I wouldn't just get pregnant right away. Like I wasn't naive in thinking like,
Okay.
we're going to have sex and I'm going to get pregnant the first time. That 1000%
Right.
happens. But I also was like, that could not happen too. And so we were open to trying very soon after getting married because we knew that it could take a while. And good thing we did because it wasn't happening. And,
Okay.
I was, as I'm sure all of you can probably assume at this point, I was using all the apps. I was tracking my period, eating fertility rich foods. Like I was doing all of the things, like not drinking as much, like
Mhm.
anything you're supposed to do in order to like have your body in the best state in order to conceive. And we've been trying for almost like a year and a half. And my doctor finally, I checked in with her at 6 months and she was like, let's give it a little bit more time.
Yeah.
So then I got to almost like a year and a half. And she was like, okay, I think you should pivot.
Mm.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so were you open to that pivot immediately?
Yeah. I didn't have, what was the other choice? Like,
Yeah.
no, we're not going to pivot. We're just going to keep trying. Like, why? Yeah. But I will say, everyone's not open to IVF.
Right.
Everyone doesn't believe in IVF. Some people think, you know what I mean? I wasn't one of those people. So
Yeah.
for me, it felt like an answer, another thing. Like this is something for us to do. Cause it felt like for that almost year and a half, it just felt like, so what are we doing then? Like, I know that it
Yeah.
can take a while, but now it's really taking a while now. Like, what's up? Like, what's tea? What do I need to do differently? So it felt like a good pivot that I was
Yeah.
excited to embark upon.
Yeah. And so during that year and a half, did you did it ever affect you? Your ability, your confidence, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a few things. It was exhausting, like I said, because I was on the vibe of like tracking my ovulation and peeing on a strip and doing
Yeah.
the thing and looking at the app and taking the pregnancy test every month. So that was exhausting. But there was also that like it was in that season of trying naturally. I started having to change my outlook on how this was all going to turn out because there was so much disappointment.
Mhm.
So, it's kind of like if I started with this much excitement and hope, it started going like this. It just started dwindling down. So by the time I got here, this is when the doctors told me to pivot. The pivot felt like, okay, I get to fill the cup back up because I'm doing something different. So
Okay.
now I can put my hope into like,
Yeah.
hopefully this will work. Now again, I lean more positively anyway, right? Just as a person.
Yeah, you do.
So that was easy for me to do, to like put my hope into something else. But I really empathize with people where it's not that easy to do. And
Right.
you have a pivot and you feel disappointment from the start rather than hope because you're like, let me just prepare myself for this not to work too. But I went into it being like, maybe this is the answer for us. This isn't what I wanted to do, but maybe God is having us pivot here for a reason because this is how we're going to get our baby. And that's what happened.
That's how you got your baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so I would love to learn more about just the steps after that, after
Mhm.
you decided to go on this journey of the pivot. You mentioned PCOS and you mentioned fibroids.
Mhm.
Can you share a little bit about your experience with fibroids, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah. So fibroids, every woman in my family has had fibroids. Like I can't
Okay.
think, I think truly like literally my mother, my sister, my grandmother, my grandmother's sister, their mother, my great grandmother, everybody. And every woman in my family has had a hysterectomy by the age of 38, which I will be 38 this year, this December. So for me, dealing with uterine fibroids has been literally uh a fight in wanting to keep my uterus because in my family I'm really the only one that still has theirs. To be honest, like that sounds so like, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
So it's almost been like this act of resistance, for like a personal act of resistance
Yeah.
to like what has felt like something that has plagued my family for so long.
Mhm.
And years ago, I went to like a holistic doctor. This was probably like 5 years ago.
Mhm.
And I was going because I wanted to kind of like see if there were any other types of solutions to deal with my uterine fibroids. And I remember he said to me, he was like, it's the first time a doctor ever talked to me like this, but he was like, one, Ashley, I want you to know that I see you. But he was like, I also just want you to know that this is not your fault. Like you having these fibroids is um because of how your ancestors were treated. Your
Whoa.
ancestors were treated so poorly and given such poor food, nutrition, um, water, all of those things, and endured so much trauma that that's why Black women deal with fibroids more than anybody else. And don't let anybody tell you anything otherwise. And I remember him
Wow.
saying that and being like, that makes so much sense. That makes
Mm.
sense. That
Yeah.
like it was the first time that I was like, "Oh my God, like of course this isn't happenstance. This is in our DNA, in our
Yeah.
collective shared DNA. And there is a path to healing, but we have to first be honest about why this is even happening in the first place." And it really just it was so healing. It was personally healing for me
Yeah.
hearing that.
Yeah. I remember you telling me that other women in your family had fibroids. And I remember saying, I just learned about fibroids with our
Mhm.
generation. I just wasn't like I always say, people know about diabetes. I knew about that as a
Mhm.
kid. So many people in my family have it and dealt with it. I knew it was prevalent in the black community. So are fibroids. But
Mhm.
I am new to this as far as like you were one of the first people that I learned about it from. And then there's so many others our age and now more talking about it more. But with you having family members that had it or had them, did you feel more knowledgeable going into it when you realized that you had them as well? Like equipped?
1000%. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
wasn't as shocking. I kind of was like, you know,
Yeah.
that tracks. Or like I remember telling my mom because I found out I discovered my first fibroid when I was 24. And I had
Okay.
my first fibroid surgery when I was 25.
Mhm.
So, I was young and I remember telling my mom and the reaction was like, "Oh, man." It was almost like I'm paraphrasing, but it was almost like, "Dang, it got you too." Like it was kind of just
Yeah.
like, "Of course it happened to you. I was hoping it didn't, but we've all dealt with it, so why wouldn't you?"
Yeah.
My prayer now is that it stops with me.
Mhm.
That's my prayer, is that Aspen doesn't experience this. She
Yeah.
knows about it, but it's not I don't have the reaction to her that my mother had with me and she had with my sister and her mother had with her. And like
Right.
I want it to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And so what we just landed on is so powerful because this is why I do the work that I do. I want to
Mm.
normalize talking about health conditions, health in general, healthcare, all of these things, because when we know about these things before it comes to us, if it comes to us, how much more equipped will we be if we knew about it already? It doesn't have to, we don't have to like start day one
Mhm.
learning about it when you're in the doctor's office and they diagnose you with it. We can be better equipped. And I think it's more of one, you're equipped with the knowledge, but that that your heart, like your reaction to being diagnosed with anything, that is a whole journey. And when you are just
Yeah.
learning about this health condition the day you get diagnosed, you're like 5 steps behind because now you're in it. And now we've got to go through the acceptance, the grief, the knowledge, the so much. And so I
Yeah.
really, I mean, I not to say that I like that your family had fibroids, but I'm glad that you
I
knew
get it.
about it because I
Mhm.
had no idea about like what MS was really before I got diagnosed. And so
Mm.
I was at a
Yeah.
deficit. I was behind the curve of learning about what it
Mhm.
was. And then I had to deal with it and process it and all this stuff. And I was just behind the curve. And so that's kind of why I wanted to have this podcast because I want to talk about
Mhm.
health conditions and health issues, but I want to normalize talking about it. You know, you and I have joked a few times in here, and even, you know, in other conversations that I've had, we can talk about it we can go
Mhm.
low and get sad and we can shed a tear, but we can also rejoice in where we are now with things and learn
Yeah.
and learn together. So I love that. And I'm so glad you're like sharing all this with me.
Oh, well, I just want to like take a second to like honor you for making sure that others don't feel the deficit that you felt
Yeah.
because that's advocacy. That's saying, you know what, I had this experience and I don't like that experience and I don't want other people to experience it. Not even just your immediate circle, but you're doing this for the world, for the community. And
Yeah.
you're truly saving lives. So I just want to honor you for that because I remember you getting diagnosed with MS and how difficult and like scary and transformative that was for you. And to see all the work you're doing now just shows that like um you're using what started off as pain for purpose. And I'm just really, really proud of you.
Oh, you made me shed a thug tear, and I don't
Oh
even have a tissue. I
no.
appreciate it. But you know, it's an interesting conversation when I'm talking to people who know me, like pre all of this, you
Mm.
know?
Mhm.
Because a lot of people know me. It's like, oh, Victoria, the girl with MS. We are ill. You know what I mean? And I am that person, and I'm not a different person, but it's
Yeah.
really when my people, they talk to me and I talk to
Mhm.
them, they just know that I'm on the other side now and that
Mm.
I'm
Tuh.
um
Yes.
you know, I did flip it, and a part of me flipping it was healing for me. It was how I processed it. I went into action.
Mm.
And I don't encourage other people to do what I did or like jump into advocacy. I encourage everybody to have their own journey. But when
Mhm.
people like yourself are talking about their health issues and just an open book, it just educates. It's just so special just to share it. It's a vulnerable state. So many people live in shame or denial
Mm.
or just, oh, I'm too private. I'm not sharing. They don't need to know about this. You know, it's like, no, we do. And so that leads me to your IVF journey. So
Mhm. Yeah.
your doctor brings this to your awareness like, hey, let's try this. And you say,
Mhm.
okay. And you're like positive, Ashley, as always.
Mhm.
And you're excited. And so what next? What happens next after this is now the path?
Okay, so she refers me to a reproductive endocrinologist slash OBGYN.
Mhm.
Um, and I go and meet with him in November of 2022. And at this time, it was an interesting time in Daryl and I's life too, because we had just found out that it was like official he was going to need a kidney transplant within the year. So we're like, okay, how are we gonna do? How are we
I
gonna? We don't have
remember
a
this.
donor. We don't have anything at this point. We just know, like, if he doesn't get a kidney, then he's gonna have to be on dialysis 5 to 6 times a week, and he's officially in stage 4 kidney disease and has what he's approaching. What they call end stage renal disease. So I go to the doctor, and I remember I told him about how my OBGYN referred me to him, and he's like, "This is great. Okay, you actually sound like." I have to say this. At the time, I was like, maybe we can just do IUI, which IUI is kind of like what I like to describe as like a step before IVF. So
Okay.
IUI is really like, to make it simple, it's like timed or medicated insemination.
Okay.
So I'm thinking maybe we just have to do that, which is also less expensive than IVF. It's less invasive. I'm hoping like maybe we could just do IUI. So
Yeah.
I even said that. I'm like, can we maybe do IUI? He's like, I think you're a better candidate for IVF, especially because Daryl needed the kidney transplant. He was
Yeah.
like, because we don't know how long this might take. When you have kidney disease or when you receive a transplant, it is not recommended that you do any of this stuff. It's just not recommended at all. So it
Okay.
was almost like we had to do it now for that reason too.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, we're gonna do IVF. And this is actually, I don't know, this might not have made this clear. I found out that I had PCOS after this. So I had like thought that I had
Okay.
PCOS for many, many years, but
Okay.
like
Yeah.
everyone was like, no, you don't have it. So if I went and met with the IVF doctor or with our IVF doctor in November of 2022, I found out in December of 2022 that I had PCOS. And I found out um, because I sought a second opinion, but also I was in the process of seeing if I could be Daryl's kidney donor.
I remember.
But because I had high A1C and insulin resistance, it bumped me out. Even though I had the
Okay.
same blood type, I had it. Honestly, I would have been a fine candidate to be Daryl's kidney donor if I didn't have PCOS. I didn't have the high A1C. I would have been
Okay.
fine. But also in retrospect, I'm like, I couldn't have given a kidney, had a baby. You can't do all of those things at the same time. So
Right.
it worked out.
Yes.
And spoiler alert, everybody, he got the kidney. His mom was his donor, and he's okay. But
Yes.
at the time, we didn't know that. It was
Right.
a very precious time.
Mm-hmm.
So in January, we started the process. And also before this, Daryl got a sperm analysis. Where a sperm analysis is where
You're telling all of
they do
Daryl's
exactly that.
business, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I've told this story so many times. He's like, so everybody just know what's going on over. I'm like, yes, Daryl, we're healing the world. It's fine. But it's basically where you do an analysis on sperm to make sure that, because this is the thing, I want to make this very clear to everybody listening. Infertility is almost like, I want to say it's actually 50-50. It is not always the woman that is the reason a couple is experiencing infertility issues. There are many instances, almost half of the instances, it is the man. So that's why doing a sperm analysis is important so that we can see what's going on with them too.
Yeah.
So I just want to, if anyone's listening and trying to figure out what's going on with their fertility maybe, and you haven't done that, I would really recommend that you and your partner get a sperm analysis. And oh, I have to say this too. Sorry. Before I left my OBGYN
You're
and
so
went to my
funny.
reproductive endocrinologist, I was officially diagnosed with what they called unexplained infertility. That's like a big part, I have to say.
Okay.
Which
So that was
is
the
just as
diagnosis. Unexplained.
yes, and it's just as frustrating as it sounds.
Yeah.
Unexplained infertility. What is happening? Like I remember being like, so what does that mean? And she was like, well, it means exactly what it sounds like. You know, it just means you're having trouble conceiving and we're just not sure why. And I was like, so it literally left me, I was reeling because I was like, these aren't answers. I just have unexplained infertility. So anyway, so then in January 2023, I started injections and I started the protocol of doing the first step for IVF, which is an egg retrieval.
Okay. And so on this process, did you ever, outside of hope, because you were hopeful, were you frustrated? Were the injections hard? Was it emotional? Like, take us back to that era for you and Daryl. When you start this, yes, you're hopeful, but peel back the layers because I really want listeners to know the full journey. Yes, we've got Aspen, who's a blessing and a little angel, and she looks just like you, which is so crazy. But this is a roller coaster. No matter, even if it's a positive outcome, it's a lot. It's a lot because it's not what you maybe imagine for yourself, but it's also like work. The injections, some people are afraid of needles and you never injected yourself at all. I know with MS, I was having injectables and I was like, oh, wait, I gotta like poke myself. And it was not so much the needle. It was the fact that I was like having to do this extra step. It felt like punishment. Why do I have to do this extra step? So not to, interrupt, but what was your journey like with that emotionally?
If I'm honest, now that I can like look back on it, I really treated IVF, one, like it was a project, to be completely honest, and two, like I was a doctor. Like I really was like, for example, I did all of my injections myself. A lot of people have someone do them for them. If they have a partner, then their partner will do them. Or even though I was blessed to have a partner doing it with me, and Daryl wanted to help me with injections. There was something about it that I was like, no, I have to do this myself. I not even have to, I want to do this myself. And I think in order to trick my mind into like being okay with it, because I'm the girl that gets her blood drawn and I can't even look. So the idea of like poking myself with needles for months is insane. But I think the reason I kind of had to act like it was a project and treat it like I was a doctor was because it made it almost like I made it like it was my job. It was almost like, okay, this is what I do. I like mix the vials and pull it. Like I just made it so that I wasn't dragging my feet in there every day. You know what I mean? I also I had to, I had my alarm set on my phone, and we did it in what at the time was the guest room, but when and if we got pregnant, we were going to make it the nursery. So we intentionally did them in there because I was like, this is good. We'll have the energy in here of like creating her. And, I made some faith purchases, which I like bought a blanket with what we wanted her name to be on it. And I got like a little outfit because I was like, I had to psych my mind into being like, this is going to work. And if it didn't, I was going to deal with that disappointment later. But at the time, I had to act like this is it. But the hardest thing was overcoming, honestly, the fear of the needles and injecting myself. That was the hardest part, Victoria. It was the hardest part. And it's the part, honestly, that I'm most proud of. Like, I cannot believe that Ashley pre-2020, January 2023, like Ashley pre-2023 would be looking at Ashley now and being like, I cannot believe you did that.
Yeah.
But I did.
That was the mother coming out of you already. You were doing it.
People said that,
doing what you had to do. Yeah. And I love you said faith purchases because my eyes went up like, what's that? But is that a thing, like a title? Like I get what it is, but is it a title? That's what like people are like, that's a faith purchase, girl? Like that's how people talking about it?
So I also think I should highlight TikTok because going through this journey, because I'm a seeker of knowledge and information, and I wanted to know how to do the injections right. And I wanted to get inspiration from other people who had been through this maybe and kind of get insight into what potentially this journey could look like.
Yeah.
TikTok did that for me. And so one of the things I saw on TikTok was women were making faith purchases, and I hadn't heard of it. And I remember seeing someone make a faith and me being like, that's my vibe.
That's what
that is my
your vibe, Ashley. That's your vibe.
Yeah. And so I can't even take credit for it. It's honestly something that I was inspired by and I saw, but while, getting a lot of like inspiration from TikTok, I also felt very alienated because I didn't really see anybody that looked like me. Like I saw a whole bunch of white women doing IVF and making their faith purchases and doing their injections with their partners and whatever. I saw a ton of that. But the percentage of people that I saw of color and then of Black people doing it was so small. And I remember one day I had this thought. I was like, I know why you have me on this journey, God, because you need me to share my story. You
Mm-hmm.
need me to contribute to the space so that another woman somewhere late at night looking for hope on TikTok, on Instagram, on the internet sees my face and feels seen and feels inspired and feels hopeful because simply because she saw a face that looked like hers. It
Yeah.
literally clicked to me. I was like, "Oh God, that's what got it. I got you. I'll
Yes.
do it." Like it clicked for me. Cuz
I
I was
love
like,
that.
"Why has this been so hard?" And it's because he wanted me to share my testimony.
Yes. And your
Similarly to you,
platform.
I think it's the same thing for you.
Mhm. No, I was getting chills as you were talking because there's a few things that are coming up for me. One is, just the positive attitude you have when you're sharing your story in retrospect, but it seems that you had a positive outlook on this process the entire time, even in times where, it was, a little dim, you chose positivity. What else is coming up for me is belief. You had a deep belief in this is going to work out or this is what I want. And in general, I trust God's process and I'm just
Mhm.
moving forward. And so that's coming up for me. And then the last thing is, I really like that you brought up TikTok, not because of the white women, but but the community aspect of TikTok, right? We have social
Yeah.
media. It could do a lot of bad things, right? It's, sometimes it's, we talk negatively about social media, but social media is that community that you don't have within reach. And we
Mhm.
do go to TikTok to look for certain things. And that is how I started my advocacy journey on Instagram. It wasn't TikTok, it was Instagram. I was just
Mhm.
talking about my experience and it started to pick up because people were having similar experiences or were looking for someone like me. And I was looking too. And, that's why we do this work. It is so important to have faces that look like you in these small little lanes and areas of the world for different topics because it
Mhm.
changes things. It really does. Sometimes you don't even know that you needed to see someone that looked like you. But what I always say is the message is in the messenger. And a
Mm.
lot of people were talking about MS before me till this day. But the people that that need to hear it from an around the way girl from Detroit.
Yes.
But
We need to hear it from you, girl.
right,
It's
right, right.
different.
It's different. It just hits different. And so this IVF journey, this is the most I've learned about an IVF journey. You know what I mean? Like from hearing it
Mhm.
from you prior to this, because we know each other, but I don't know anybody telling this much. I've seen people say I did IVF, but like really telling it like it is, and then giving your personal tips of belief and faith purchases, and the way you manifested this, doing the injections in the room that would ultimately be your baby's nursery is like
Mhm.
I want to say it's wild, but that's not the right word. But it's like what? You
Yeah.
intentionally did that and then it came true for you? Like, that's
Mhm.
beautiful, and that's what people need to see. And so
Yeah.
okay, and so you did your, injections, you made your
Mhm.
faith purchases, you
Mhm.
wanted to learn you treated it like you were the doctor, it was your
Yep.
your way of kind of handling it, and then what? What happens after you finish your injection? Like, what's the process?
So then, so I was doing my injections. I think I did them for 12 or 13 days. Everyone has a
Okay,
different amount of days. You're trying to
okay.
get your eggs to be mature. Um, and I was scheduled for an egg retrieval, which is a surgical procedure, but it's very, very short. It's like, I think they told me once I woke up because they put you to sleep. I think it took like 20 minutes. It's
Oh,
very,
wow.
very short. But when I woke up, we got 40 eggs, which is great.
Okay.
And our plan was to create embryos right away. So some people freeze their eggs because they just want to put them on ice for later, right?
Yeah.
But Daryl and I obviously were trying to have a baby in the near future. So you take sperm and once you have the eggs out, then they take them to the lab and they put them together and you wait and see how many typically you wait until about day 5 to see how many, 5 or 7, to see how many uh, eggs then become embryos and make it to what they call blastocyst. And blastocyst is like where they want it to be, and that's where it's like it's at the stage where you can then implant them. So I just to give you kind of some numbers, which was always very fascinating to me.
Yeah.
They retrieved 40 eggs. The number of 40 eggs dropped down to 30. So that means that like 10 of them, there was actually nothing really in there that they could use. So I went
Okay.
from 40 to 30 like the same day.
Okay.
So they then took the sperm and, put them together with the 30 eggs. And from there, 17 made it to blastocyst. So I went from
Okay.
40 eggs to 17 embryos, which again is very successful. I'm very blessed. I'm so grateful that we have so many embryos. But it was also one of those things where I was like, this is what my body needed. IVF, I always say like I'm an IVF girly. Like my body could not have responded any better to IVF. It worked perfectly despite all of the things I had been told for years about my body. Despite having unexplained infertility the whole time I had been trying to conceive, I
Yeah.
pivot to IVF and it's a linear story. Like,
Yeah.
remember I was telling you my journey before it was everything but linear?
Yeah.
Once I actually started IVF, it was like, this worked, that worked, boom, you're fine, you're gonna get pregnant. It all worked out perfectly.
Wow. What a blessing. And I'm so glad you're able to
Yes.
share the specifics, especially the numbers. I appreciate that. But this is beautiful. This is what people need to hear because
Mhm.
I can see people getting discouraged and not getting as far in this journey as you. The fact that you were
Mhm.
a good candidate for it and then like your body worked for your body. It's like what other people are doing ain't got nothing to do with you. You have to do what's best for your body, for your family, for your health, and let the rest go. Let the rest flow. And
Yep.
so we have Aspen.
Yep.
and so okay. So you
We
have this.
do. She is live and in color. Yes, she is.
I cannot wait till you text me about 2-year-old Aspen because that's when the real party starts.
Oh my gosh. I thought we were already at the party, girl. Okay.
Girl, no. When the personality starts to shine, it gets different. Okay. And so,
Whew.
where are we at?
So now it's time to schedule an embryo transfer. So we did the egg retrieval, right? So we had to get the eggs. So we did egg retrieval,
Yeah.
created the embryos. Now we have the embryo that we now have to put back inside of me in hopes that it implants and then I am pregnant. But when you're doing IVF, you have to schedule these things because there's new medication I need to take to start prepping my body for that.
Mm-hmm.
Which include the two main ones are progesterone and which is typically injected, progesterone in oil, or used by a suppository, and estrogen.
Okay.
So I start on that protocol, and then there is a transfer day, which is like the day that, basically you're reunited, hopefully with your baby.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we did the transfer day. And then, there's the long week of a wait where you're waiting to see if you're pregnant.
Yeah.
And you go in and do a blood test, which I remember that morning because I didn't have any symptoms. So I was like, I had hope all this time and
Uh-huh.
I didn't have any symptoms. And so we got in the car to drive up to the place. And I remember being like, it's okay, D. I don't think it happened. I don't think it worked, but it's okay. But it was like I had all that hope, and then the day that it's time to find out, the hope like left my body, and I think it was
Mm-hmm.
me honestly just trying to prepare myself for if it didn't work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we went, did the blood test, and our like main nurse the whole time was an amazing Black woman named Lakeisha. She literally was
Okay,
there from the
Lakeisha.
first appointment we had to I talked to Lakeisha last week. Like we are still in touch. Like I love her so much. And I remember Lakeisha was like, "It's time." I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Girl, it's gonna be fine." And again, this is the thing, Victoria. I got Daryl and I custom sweatshirts made that we wore that day that said IVF mom, IVF dad, because it was another faith purchase. I still was like, I had to act like that. I had to
Yeah.
act like this is happening. I'm a mom, he's a dad. We're gonna take our picture in our IVF stuff. And I did the blood test and I still felt like, oh, I don't know. And on the way back home, we saw a rainbow, like a really big rain. And I feel like it was weird because like it wasn't even like raining. It just was like a
Mhm.
rainbow.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, okay, like something about the rainbow was like, maybe we're gonna be all right. And then Daryl and I got lunch and we went home and I just like needed to like calm my nerves. And then we got a call from the doctor and they said we were pregnant.
Wow.
And then I was on and so it was a very exciting day,
Yeah.
obviously. Very, 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 very. I still remember Daryl's face and me jumping up and down. He recorded like me jumping up and down in the bathroom because I had never, I think it's important to note, I had
Mhm.
never seen a positive pregnancy test ever.
Yeah.
Even when they called me and said I was pregnant, I had still never actually seen on a stick. It wasn't until after they called and said I was pregnant that I peed on a stick and saw it. But to
Mhm.
me, that's an important part of the story
Yeah.
because that's what faith is. It's evidence in what you still it's faith in what you still can't see, but knowing that it can still happen. So I almost think it's kind of like a special part of the story that even I found out I was pregnant and still I knew I was pregnant before I even saw that I was pregnant. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? It was still God's say before me doing all I mean, I had probably at that point taken 40 pregnancy tests. And then after that, so it's exciting that you're pregnant, but then I go on another protocol where I was on medication for like the first 2 months,
Okay.
injecting myself every day. And then, no, maybe more than 2 months. I think it was like 11, 12 weeks.
Mhm.
So almost 3 months. And then, yeah, but I had a really healthy pregnancy. I didn't have any complications. She was healthy the whole time, and I had an amazing delivery. I had a C-section, which was safer because I had fibroids, removal surgery, so my uterus had scar tissue, so it's just safer to have a C-section.
Yeah.
But I could have had a vaginal delivery if I didn't have C-section or, fibroid removals,
Yeah.
and we came home 2 days later, and she's been here ever since.
Aspen. And so my last question before we move on to the next segment is, how has motherhood been for you? Out not just I got this baby here on earth and
Mhm.
I'm, a mother in real time. Not just that, but holistically, everything
Mm.
leading up to that moment, plus holding her in your arms today. How has
Yeah.
motherhood been for you? What does it mean to you?
Motherhood has been fantastic. I've experienced a type of joy that I realized could only be accessed because I'm a mother. Nothing else could bring me the type of joy that being a mother does.
Yeah.
Um, and I love that I have a joy in my heart that's reserved for she and I, that only she and I share, that she brought to me because God blessed me with her. It's something that's like really, really special.
Yeah.
Um, and it's been incredibly healing. And I definitely, obviously I don't think you should have children to heal yourself.
Yeah.
I think healing has been a welcomed side effect of becoming a mother. And when I say healing, I mean healing in the type of grace that I give myself. The the discovery of patience that I didn't know that I had. The yeah, the I always thought I was a tenacious person, but now when I look at her every day being here and like you said, reminding myself in moments that like I was just doing injections in this room. Now I get you up in the morning every day from this very, very room. It just goes to show how long the journey was, but we only got here because of my tenacity. Or a large part of why we got here was because of my tenacity. And I didn't give up and I kept
Yeah.
believing. And um it just and I'll say lastly, I think the other part of motherhood that I love is that it it it's my legacy. And so I remember after I had her, literally one of the first thoughts was, oh my God. I think I said it, I actually did say it aloud. I was like, I'm so excited to live my life. That's what I said. And it not that I wasn't excited before, but having her added a layer of like, oh my God, life is so exciting. Like she gets to grow up and we get to do things together. And oh my gosh, there's so many milestones I get to look forward to. And oh my gosh, she's gonna get to know me. Like it, I just thought of all of the ways in which life can only get and become more beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's the greatest blessing. And I got to this blessing because I'm just so grateful for my marriage. You know what I mean? So that was the
Oh,
the first stepping stone into getting here. Yeah.
I love that. Well, it's
Yeah.
been a pleasure talking to you in this capacity. And I'm so glad you came to the pod.
Ditto, sis. Well, your pod is fantastic. I love it. I'm so proud of you. I love seeing you in this capacity, and I love chatting with you in this capacity. And I'm just really excited to see where you'll be and where your advocacy will be in 10 years and 20 years and 30 years. So, um I got your back and I support you and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Love
You're
you.
welcome. Love you too, sister.
Too often, we're too quiet about our health. And when talking about it, like, can literally save your life, we should talk about it. So let's talk about it.
Hi, I'm Ashley from Oklahoma. I'm a queer Black woman in my mid 30s, and although I would like to have children, I'm at an age where I'm considering other options because I don't think I want to be pregnant that bad. I have so much anxiety around pregnancy and childbirth without really ever having been pregnant. But I have a friend she's on her third or fourth embryo transfer and finally got a positive pregnancy test. So I'm happy for her. I've always hoped for the best, but I also feel a little bit worried and a little bit scared just about her experience. So it's still very early. I'm feeling probably a little bit more anxious than she is. And because of that fear, I think I'm afraid to talk to her about pregnancy. And so I'm really just looking at some advice. Is there anything that you could say or, help me with soothing my own anxiety around this? So really just interested in any advice you guys have and any advice I might be able to give my friend when I talk to her as she's still real early in her pregnancy.
So the first thing that came up for me was, are you scared to talk to your friend because of like projecting or because of what you'll find out when she tells you like what's going on? But obviously we
Mhm.
can't get the answer. But what immediately came up for me was how hard our 20s and our 30s are when our friends are having these life moments and you're watching and you're like wanting a lot of those things and you have to be happy for your friend, but you also grieve that it's happening for someone else. And it's very
Mhm.
hard to balance. And I've seen a lot of friendships crumble. And a lot of people have those feelings, but not be able to express it and not even be able to put words to it. And then the friendship
Mhm.
goes when it didn't have to go. It didn't have to leave
Yeah.
or it didn't have to
Yeah.
end if we could name the
Yeah.
names or, like name the feelings. And so
Mhm.
my only thought was I'm not afraid to have uncomfortable conversations. And it's not because they're not uncomfortable. It's just that I realize that life be lifing. And I have seen so many interactions with other people, not even myself, where I literally can see what's happening. And if someone would just say what this is, then y'all can get past it. Y'all can get through it. And
Mhm.
I learned that early on. And so I would encourage this person to express those feelings with your friend. First of all, your friend probably knows what you're scared of, and your
Mhm.
friend knows where you are, probably. And if they don't, I think as your friend, you should be able to share those things. Now, if your friend is going through a tough pregnancy and maybe the things that you're sharing, are negative or sad or something, maybe you want to protect your friend's energy. Sure. But I think that your friend wants you to talk to her about your fears. and whatever you're
Mhm.
experiencing. Because just because your friend is having her pregnancy era doesn't mean that you aren't going through things as well. There's space for both of you. Ashley, you got any thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I mean, what I would offer is that, you know, your mindset and perspective is everything. So I would encourage you to make a different choice than the choice that you've been making, right? So I would make the choice to expect the best, to envision good outcomes, to think that although you've heard of people having not so great pregnancies, that you might have a fantastic one. And again, if it's something different, then you'll cross that bridge when you get there. But I think while you're in a season of uh preparing yourself to potentially pivot into whatever your uh fertility journey may look like, then you might as well make a choice to look at it positively and hold space for your friend while doing so. You know what I mean? If she's in the midst of it, then what are ways that you can hold space without unintentionally, I want to make it clear, unintentionally projecting any of your fears or anxiety on
Mm-hmm.
her. Um So yeah, that's what I would expect. But just, mindset is everything. And it's not always easy to make the positive choice. Like I also want to make that clear. Like there were
Yeah.
many nights that I was like, all I want to do is throw this medication out the window and like stomp around. You know what I mean? Like obviously, but I always felt better when I made a different choice.
The journey to motherhood is different for everyone. Like some
It
women are
is.
like, I don't want to deliver. So C-section me. Like,
Listen.
and then some people are like, I don't want to breastfeed. Give me that formula. You know what I mean? And I love when women are like, yeah, nah, that ain't for me. Because you don't have to pledge. You don't gotta thug it out. Like
You
how you
do
think.
not have to. That was me with nursing. I was like, I literally remember looking at my 1-week-old baby like, "You don't like this, right?" And her being like, "No, mom, I don't." And me being like, "Oh my God, I don't either. Do you want to pivot and do something different?" And her being like, "There's another option." And me being like, "Yes, girl, I can just pump and give you a bottle." And her being like, "We good to go." And we've been
I don't think I
pumping and
knew that
bottling
you were
it for
doing
6
that.
months. I exclusively pump.
Oh,
Yes. She hasn't
I
been
mean, I
on
knew
my
you were
boob
pumping because you post
since.
about it all the time. But I didn't know
Oh
you were
yeah, girl. I was
exclusively
like,
pumping.
"Oh no, no, no. This don't work for me. I don't like this." And she was like, "Me neither, girl." And I was like, "Okay, great."
Oh, so no raw nipples.
Can't relate.
Can't relate.
If you have questions related to your health, patienthood, navigating the healthcare system, advocating as a caregiver, finding community in your wellness journey, or anything related to being Black and ill, record it in a voice note or write it in a letter and send it to me at podcast@weareillms.com.
Patient in You is a podcast from We Are Ill. It is hosted by me, Victoria Reese. Our producer is Tribble at Ask Tribble Inc. Original music by Laura Burke. Video content produced by Joshua Duane and Matt Ellis. Don't forget to find us on Instagram at Patient in You and subscribe to our YouTube channel at We Are Ill MS for the full video version of each episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and leave us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps people find us. For more information about We Are Ill, our programs, and our initiatives, visit our website, weareillms.com.
This podcast is sponsored by MD Serono and AbbVie.